Kirby and Bobo are tight. I don't know whether that has anything to do with it or not. I think
it absolutely did.
You think so? You think
absolutely.
Maybe if it was Mullen, Kirby's.
If it was Mullen, he would have run it and then he would have gone for 2.
Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, my co-host John Powell and I review Georgia's 45-17 win over Mike Bobo and the South Carolina Gamecocks. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My Gotta Podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. All right. Well, we won the Bobo.
We won the Bobo.
The first ever. We'll see if there'll ever be another one. I personally don't like playing against Bobo just because I like him. So that I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that. But we handled them. We did kind of to them, I think, what we were thinking we were going to do in Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, although Mississippi State had a much better defense, I think you and I were messaging about that. Like,
yeah,
you definitely could tell the difference, and I think that you and I were talking about the fact that we were definitely expecting a little bit of anger coming out of the offensive line, and you could definitely see that anger play out on the field.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it's a good thing to point out, clarify, right? Because we did to South Carolina kind of what I ended up expecting to do to Mississippi State by kickoff, not so much when we previewed Mississippi State. Because by the time kickoff rolled around, we found out about all the people that were out. But yeah, for sure. And I mean, we did talk about how depleted South Carolina was. And I mean, it definitely showed they were overmatched. But let's run through speaking of previews, let's run through our predictions.
Yeah, let's do it.
First one's kind of a funny one because we talked about over under Bobo pictures in a Georgia uniform, and I actually did tally them. Now I could have missed some, but I texted you every time it happened. So at one point, and I had to go back and listen to make sure I wrote this down right. At one point, we were saying 2.5, but you were so convinced it was going to be 3 exactly that you wanted to set the line at 3 and say that it was going to be a push. That's what you were saying. But I'm going to give it to you and say that it was 2.5, or maybe I shouldn't give it to you. It doesn't matter. It was 2. I said over, so I was off. I thought they were going to do it more. The 2 shots that they showed though were good ones.
This is important stuff.
That's very important. Okay, next we had over under Georgia 149.9 rushing yards, and boy, did we hit the over.
I can't remember. Did we say the over? Did I take the under? Or?
You took the under because you said that you felt like Monken had his new toy with Daniels and that we were going to air it out again. Let's see. We were both right on South Carolina starting quarterback of Doty. And then also we were correct on 1.5 Georgia quarterbacks playing. We both took the under, and we were correct there. And then the score, you were closer than I was. So I had 31-14, you had 35-14, and it was 45-17. So
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we were prepared for that score line.
I was not prepared to hit the 40s. And I mean, it was kind of a name your score game. I mean, we could have scored more.
We should have scored more.
Yeah. I mean, it took a knee at the 1 yard line to end the game, which is actually pretty awesome. I saw some stuff on Twitter a bit, and not directly in my timeline, but things like people saying, man, if you're still mad after that game and these kinds of things, which my general response to that is always who are you following? Don't follow those people if you don't like what they're saying. Because I only saw it from that lens. But sir, I'll give you some historical perspective that Jeff Dantzler said on the Bulldog Brunch, as I always like to talk about. That was the largest margin of victory over South Carolina since 1960.
Wow.
So in 1960, we beat them 38-6, but that game was in Athens. The last time we beat them by more points in Colombia, you want to take a guess when that was, John?
Mm. When was the Athens game? You said it was
60,
60?
1960. In 60,
1960?
we beat them 38-6 at home.
Do you have to go back to like the 40s or something like that?
Well, it was 40-0, so you kind of hit that. Even further back,
Oh,
1894.
Wow.
So that was the last time we beat them by more points
This
in
was
Colombia. So
this was
is
a
a historic win.
historical butt whooping is what it is.
Absolutely, it was. So again, not too much to complain about, at least for me. The only thing I would complain about is that I still can't get over the fact that we weren't playing Georgia Tech, but whatever. So again, the nugget there. Last time that we didn't play Georgia Tech in a season, 1924. And then also on the South Carolina side, the last time they had a season where they didn't play Clemson was 1908. So
Oof.
definitely was weird to not be playing Tech on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But the funny thing is, it did allow Georgia Tech to win a home game on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which they have not done in quite some time. So
Good job, Tech. You hadn't played since what, like October or something, and people were like,
right? Yeah, they had.
basically forgot that they existed. Oh,
I honestly didn't. I didn't know that they hadn't played since I hadn't noticed. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think someone had said that. I think it was the second string talking about that they hadn't played since like October or something. But
Yeah.
but yeah, the it's like I was going back through my time hop, my memories or whatever from a few years ago, and the memes from the Tech game popped up because years past we would be jibing with the Tech folks, and one of the memes from Mad Men had popped up where Don Draper was in the elevator and the guy's like, "I feel bad for you, man," and Don Draper's like, "I don't think about you at all."
Right.
And that was the Georgia guy.
Yes.
Georgia logo on Don Draper.
I know. Like Scott Duvall wrote a whole article about that meme when that surfaced that year, a couple years ago. Okay, well, back to South Carolina. I was going to start kind of with the offense, and just for me, the main thing to me was the offensive performance here felt better, like it was more satisfying to me than against Mississippi State. Part of that's probably just due to the margin of victory. It was a much more comfortable win. One could argue that it's because I'm old and crotchety and like to run the ball. And we certainly did that as opposed to the air raid I guess not air raid, but airing it out. But I want to say that it was just because against Mississippi State, it was, the passing game was awesome, but it didn't leave a great feeling knowing that they shut down our running game. It was just the fact that they kind of dictated something to us. And there was nothing dictated to our offense in this game. I mean, they could do whatever they wanted, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think was it Graham that was talking about it with us? That he was. This is what a balanced offense can really bring to the table when you've got to consider the fact that JT Daniels can throw the ball down the field to any number of weapons. One of which was Arian Smith in this game, which was phenomenal. He was a guy that I was really excited to see because he's got that world-class sprinter speed that I don't know that we've had. Maybe we had it in Meikle, obviously, but I don't know that we've had that kind of world-class speed on the roster in quite some time.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I thought that Stinchcomb's description of saying that he was shot out of a cannon on that touchdown, I think was pretty accurate. I mean, he was so open. That was awesome. And also just like, just having this sense of that, like the offensive line kind of got whipped the week before. And we talked about, and you said, like, we're kind of hoping that there was maybe a challenge made to them, and they definitely stepped up to it. I mean, they were just blowing South Carolina backwards.
Yeah, I mean, the line on some of those long runs, the 10, 15, 20 plus yard runs, I mean, shoot, a couple were basically untouched into the end zone. Welcome to the running game, James Cook.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up, that before the game, we were talking about wide receiver weapons, and you were like, they just need to move James Cook to wide receiver. Then he goes and blows it up.
Yes. Proof that I do not know what I'm talking about. I'll say I think he could be good. He could be a good wide receiver.
He'd be a good wide receiver. I agree.
He would, and he is similar in stature to Waddle. That's why I keep going to that. But man, you find the way to get, and also so I think some of it's just like getting him the ball, and they figured it out this week. Yeah, man, his long touchdown run and Zamir's, both of them right at the gut and untouched. I think both of them.
Yeah,
I mean, Cook didn't even have to change directions at all. Like, he just went straight up the middle.
Yeah, just like, hey, I'll take this. I'll take this home. The replay, from what I saw, as you look at some of the highlights, you see the line. They're basically 4 or 5 yards downfield before they even get to the original line of scrimmage, the running back. So, I mean, we were basically getting at least 3-4 yards on most of the running plays that I saw on like the game highlights. I didn't go back and watch this game full replay, but I did watch pretty intently during the game this time around. But it seemed like that the offensive line was able to get a pretty big push in this game. So, that makes things a lot easier. And it also means that if you've got the defensive line on the ropes, then you're able to move them around and create those big holes that result in untouched touchdowns.
Right. Yeah.
They played like a team that was ready to quit.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like Bobo said, like after the game, that basically, they were overmatched, and that's what happens, like that. And he also pointed out, that, well, I think the way he said it was that Georgia shut down everyone except 2 teams. So, I mean, we've beat everyone except 2 teams. I don't know if we shut everyone else down, but yeah, I mean, just so as someone who likes to run the ball, 4 running backs over 70 yards, that was amazing. And just everything being balanced. And I guess I would say more like it was more methodical, I guess I would say, right? It wasn't all big chunk plays, balanced, sustained drives. And something that I didn't realize in the flow of the game, watching it, I noticed it on Sunday. Actually, Dog Stats had posted a video of the entire last drive. And I was watching it, and I noticed at the start of the drive how much time was left. I was like, wait a minute, is this all one drive? So I went back to the drive chart to double check it to make sure that I was right. We got the ball back after their last score. They kicked off. We got the ball with 9 minutes and 27 seconds left on the clock in the game. And we ended the game on that drive.
That's the old-fashioned manhood stealing drive.
Exactly, which was like the Bobo Richt signature how to end a game move, and Kirby did that too, Bobo.
The sleeper hold. Put him in the sleeper hold.
So that was cool. I did hate that Edwards had his one touchdown wiped off in the third quarter. That would have been nice for him to get have 2 guys get their first touchdown. And then he had a chance there late, and Kirby could have got him one, but you can end the game. You end the game. Game's over. Take a knee. I've got no problem with it. Hanging half 100 would have been nice, but Kirby and Bobo are tight. I don't know whether that has anything to do with it or not. I think
it absolutely did.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe if it was Mullen, Kirby's.
If it was Mullen, he would have run it, and then he would have gone for 2.
That's awesome.
Maybe
awesome.
that's just me. Maybe that's just me, Jim.
You would have gone for 2.
I would have gone for 2 on Mullen, and then I would have kicked the onside kick.
Yeah, I mean, and then I mean Daniels, obviously didn't have the crazy numbers, but I think to me at least showed that like I don't know, the week before wasn't like a fluke or anything. Like he still looks solid. I'm not going to say he was perfect. There's definitely room for improvement. There's things for him that he can work on. But I can't remember if I was texting this to you or my dad on one of the underthrows that he had. But it was like, you know what? Overthrow or underthrow is better than overthrow. I guess at this point, like, we had so many deep balls overthrown when we had either Mathis or Bennett in the game. And we're not seeing that. I mean, I don't think we've seen him make an overthrow yet. At least not in this game. I can't remember if they were in the first game or not, but have been some underthrows. No underthrow has led to a turnover or anything though. So I don't know. Still liking what I'm seeing out of Daniels.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that one interception was kind of like a fluke interception too. So I think his quarterback rating is kind of through the roof right now. Had he had enough attempts, like he would probably be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC from a quarterback rating standpoint. But he was pretty efficient. The biggest thing that I took away from there are two big takeaways for me from the offense. Obviously, hats off to the running game, offensive line, all that's great to see. And we've kind of seen that throughout the season. It's been pretty inconsistent for the running game. We've seen the passing game blow up, and that's been obviously kind of hit and miss here, especially with a new quarterback getting broken in halfway through the season. But for me, the two biggest things were we had an offense and we stuck with what worked. Like we basically ran the ball until they couldn't stop us, and we threw the ball when we needed to, obviously, but and just to mix things up. But we ran the ball, we ran it down their throat. We didn't pull a Chaney and get too cute. When we get down and we ran the ball all the way down to the 5-yard line, and then we started to throw play action passes to try to punch it in or whatever. We didn't pull a Bobo. We didn't pull a Bobo where we were, throwing the ball all day long, and then all of a sudden we started running it, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
We stuck with what worked and take what the defense gives you. And that to me was the biggest thing from an offensive standpoint that I like. The one thing that I would like to critique is we started the game with amazing passes to the tight end, Trey McKitty. And that guy, I feel like, and I think that they said that on the one of the broadcasts, or maybe it was punt and pass, I can't remember, but Trey McKitty has been really underutilized in this season, and part of that's obviously with the quarterback woes, but he kind of got I really hope he takes a mulligan and takes advantage of the blanket waiver for an extra year. Frankly, a lot of these guys, I feel like that they would benefit from sticking around another year to have a quarterback, and got another 5-star coming in that can sling the ball pretty good around too. But we came out and we blazed a trail with a tight end, and then we never used them again. That's the one critique that I have from the offense. From the game was that we never used that weapon that clearly was working.
Well, I was pull up the stats that he had on the game. He had 2 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown, and that was all in the first drive.
It was on the first drive, and then we never saw him again. It's madness. And then on the flip side, you had Bobo, who was using the tight end all game long. It was like he was trolling Georgia fans. Like, hey guys, I'm going to throw the ball to the tight end. Well, I never did it when I was there.
That Muse kid was good.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. And of course, I tweeted something along the lines when they had their first rushing touchdown. I was like, well, of course, now Bobo runs the dang ball.
Of course, now he runs the dang ball.
In Williams-Brice, not with Gurley. I got to give their offense some credit, because I think our bad on not mentioning Kevin Harris. He's good, man. They're running back. He was very good. And he's still the SEC's leading rusher in yards.
I mean,
He was impressive.
you say that, and yes, he was, but
Yeah.
he still only had 53 yards on 17 carries.
Yeah, he did. It's weird, right? Like, I guess it wasn't so much the volume. I don't know. He had some tough runs. And maybe it's just like the nightmare flashback of the 4th and 1 where we had him in the backfield and he got away. Like where we stuffed him like for like a 3-yard loss and then he got away. I don't know. He ran hard. He runs hard.
I mean, I'll say this, I mean, he definitely looked the part when he got the opportunities to, break through or whatever. Like there was a couple of like really hard fought runs, which, we had several of those too. Like, holy cow, McIntosh coming through. I was surprised that McIntosh did so well. I'm really excited to see Dejan Edwards. Obviously he was kind of towards the end of the game, but like after we had it in hand, but he's going to be a handful, man. He looked solid out there, but that
and Zeus was moving the pile too. There was a couple of those where like the entire pile was just moving with Zeus in the middle of it. So
yeah. And then obviously it was good to see James Cook get some. I mean, he was the leading rusher in the game. So anyway, I thought that, yes, Kevin Harris looked really solid. And I remember thinking like, man, this kid's really good. But then you look at his stat line, it's like, man, he only got 53 yards. Jeez.
Yeah, that is surprising. Yeah, it felt like a lot more.
It really did. Like I thought so too. Weird. Even watching the highlights, he was in there. I was like, hey, man, I kind of forgot that kid was really good during the game. But you look at his stats, and we kind of really did shut down the leading rusher for the SEC. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I had said before like that I like Boba's offense. He runs a good offense. I mean, he found some things to do on us. I mean, really, like my only gripe on our defense was really just, I mean, I mentioned the 4th and 1 where we kind of let them get away. There was some poor tackling. So, for things, if you want to nitpick on this game, tackling was the thing for me.
I would agree with that. There were definitely some opportunities for us to shut down some series, on 3rd down. I think there was a couple of times when we had a guy and then all of a sudden he bounced outside or pushed the pocket or pushed the pile. Yeah. I mean, I do think that there was opportunities for us to get our defense off the field and we didn't take it. So there is that. And you look at the stats lines and, Doty actually did better from a yard standpoint than Daniels did. He had better completion percentage. Obviously, we were just they were just overmatched on all phases of the game.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia was clearly the superior team. But what was nice about it was that the score showed it at the end. Because with Georgia football, that's not always the case,
Yeah, where like if we'd have turned the ball over or threw a couple of picks or something like that, then all of a sudden they're back in it.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
I guess I'll say a bright spot on the defense, I would say was Jalen Carter. That was probably his best game, I would think. Dude had a coming out party for sure. Yeah. He looked really good. And like we've been saying, in the absence of Jordan Davis, which he still didn't play, who would step up and it's good getting him these reps and getting this and like you said, kind of coming out party here because I mean there's no telling. We don't know if Jordan Davis will be back next year, right? So Jalen Carter certainly will be. So I don't know. At least start grooming that next guy.
I mean, we've talked about guys that really probably could have elevated their draft stock in this season. I think that he is an example of the type of person that obviously has NFL talent written all over him, and he's probably going to be playing on Sundays. But I do think that because he got hurt, his draft stock's probably dropped a good bit. So, because there's just not enough film on him. So
Right.
I don't know. If I were in his shoes, I would probably come back. But I mean, obviously don't know his personal circumstances. But I really hope that he comes back and takes. He's another one of those guys that I think that could really elevate his draft stock with another year, particularly another year with a good quarterback on the other side of the ball. Because
Yeah.
like you said, like we've been saying, it just seems like that we just are missing key pieces. So like I really hope that a key piece on the defensive line can stick around, because they got some guys coming in on the recruiting class coming in here from a nose tackle perspective that look like they're going to be pretty good. Which I don't want to talk about recruiting, but I don't know. I just I just think that he would really benefit from sticking around for another year.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't know, anything else on the defense that hit my notes that I had?
Tyson Campbell got his first interception.
Oh, true. How was that his first one? Like I felt like he had one. That's crazy.
I think. Well, I didn't fact check the broadcast
No. You're
announcer.
right. No, you're
Yeah.
right. That
Okay.
was his first
Okay.
interception. I think it's
Okay.
because like the first game that I remember him getting like extensive playing time was Missouri in 18, and like he had a long fumble recovery that he ran back for a touchdown. So I guess that's kind of what's sticking in my mind. But yeah, no, you're right. It was his first pick. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he nearly ran the dang thing back. So
He was close. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the defense played really well. I mean, obviously we shut down the number one rusher in the SEC,
Yep.
which seemed to be part of the game plan because, like I said, Doty had a pretty good outing. We kind of basically made him beat us, and he couldn't do it. So
Right.
I think the game plan was pretty solid on the defensive side, and obviously when you're running the ball, grinding it down the opposing defense for so long. I didn't actually look at this, but like, what was the actual time?
The time of possession.
What was the time of possession?
It was so it was more even than I thought it would have been, because that was something that I looked up, because I was going to say that we dominated time possession because that's what it felt like, but we didn't. So we had the ball for 31 minutes and 9 seconds, and they had it for 28 minutes and 51 seconds.
Wow.
So yeah, and it was pretty like by quarter. Like one team. So the third quarter was the closest time of possession, but otherwise, like one team dominated it. So we dominated the first and fourth quarter at over 9 minutes possession, and with them at 5 something. And then second quarter was the opposite. So they had the ball, which I guess kind of makes sense, right? Like that's when they made their little mini run to get their 10 points. And then the third quarter, they had it 8.5 minutes, and we had 6.5 minutes, roughly. Yeah, it felt like we had it more though. I guess it's because of that. It just the way the game ended with that 9-minute drive. That was so awesome.
The fourth quarter drive was pretty phenomenal. I mean, that was like a work of art. But I think that it felt like we were controlling the ball. It felt like we basically kept them off the field. The other thing that it felt like was that every third down that came up, it just felt like that we were always going to convert it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we did. I mean, basically 80%, I think is what we were. Yeah, 8 out of 10 on third down. So, and we kept them at 4 and 13, which, like I said, I think that had we had a couple of other like stops on third down that they did get, it could have been a lot uglier. But yeah, solid performance from the defense overall, even though it's not like we didn't shut them out or anything like that. So
right.
But it was a solid outing. I think that this is the kind of performance. I think that this is the kind of outing that we could probably expect from an offense that's going to put up, 40, 30 points a game. You're going to get scored on a little bit. You're going to get opportunities for people to get yards. And I think that's what people are talking about when they say that Alabama's turned the corner. Like their defense kind of looked very similar, frankly. I feel like that we looked like against South Carolina. The only difference is that they make teams like, they make better teams look that way.
Right.
Or they take teams that we kind of like you said, let hang around. And they'll just flat out pull a 45-16 game on them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. Hey, I think it's safe to say that we kind of questioned it last week. We played two halves this game.
We did play two halves.
So Adam Weinstein, there you go.
It was a complete game.
Absolutely.
There it is. And we didn't really hit on the special teams yet. I don't know if that's next on your notes or not, but
I would say all three phases we hit on.
Yeah, exactly. So at some point, Kearis Jackson is going to get a run back, right? Like it's going to happen.
Yes.
It's going to happen at some point because you could see like he was so close to busting that punt return. And frankly, he was pretty close to taking a kickoff out, which he fielded it from the end zone, which we were like, and he took it all the way out to almost like the 30 or 40 yard line or something like that. But anyway,
I had a no, yes moment. No, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. It's like the thing you said about Stetson. Like it's one of those moxie things.
Right. Exactly.
He's got a lot of moxie when he runs it, 40 yards out of the end zone, but he gets tackled at the 15-yard line. He looks like a moron.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, there and then. So this is an amazing stat that we only had one punt the entire game, but it was. Yeah, so one punt by Camarda, 50 yards to the right, as we noticed from Kevin Butler. He kicks it to the straight ahead or to the right. He booms it, and so we did that this game. So that was nice.
That's so funny that he noticed that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess we just won't be kicking it to the left anymore. Which maybe he listens to the Bulldog Brunch or whatever. Maybe he does. He doesn't listen to My God a Podcast, but he listens to Bulldog Brunch.
Right, exactly. And then I got the other thing, like early in the season we were debating what do we call Pod Lesney. There was the Hot Pod, but you didn't like Hot Pod, and so I'll give credit to Chase Kelly, Chance Dog 19 on Twitter. He wants to call him Jackpod, and his reasoning was like, Hot Rod, like it makes sense, right? He's Rodrigo, Rod, Hot Rod, like that's the pun. And he was like, Jackpod or saying Hot Pod, like that doesn't make sense. Like it's not a good pun. And he was saying, go from jackpot to jackpod, that would actually make sense. So I was like, that makes sense.
I actually really enjoy that one. Jackpod.
There we go. Okay. So you had asked, could we come up with a new name? We didn't come up with it, but Chase did. So we're going to roll with that. So he's now known as Jackpod.
He also comes with a little bit more oomph behind him because he's putting out the t-shirts.
Well, yeah, the guy knows how to come up with a slogan. So cool. I did get a text from my buddy Brad. He was talking about that we always say Munsoning, and he wanted to add a word to the lexicon of My God Podcast.
Oh no, we have a lexicon now?
Yeah, I think so. So he wanted to offer up the term munkening.
Munkening. Okay.
And hold on. I got to pull up his text to make sure that I say this right. Why can't I find it? Okay, he said, Jim, new term for you, munkening. When you think going into a game, the one aspect of the game is so good, passing game, for this pass game, but it's the exact opposite when the game starts.
We're munkening. Hey man, if that's a sign that he will take his natural tendency and pivot it on a dime and stick with it until someone proves that they can stop it, I'll be good to go, man. Like,
yeah, it really is nice to see. Again, just like do what works, and if it's working, continue to do it. Have some balance, keep everything honest. I mean, and I feel like that was it to perfection. This game,
it's so weird. It's so weird. Just do what works.
What is this sorcery?
This isn't rocket science.
Right. Cool. I don't know. You got anything else?
No, it was a wonderful victory. The war chickens. We didn't have to hear that screeching chicken sound. Although
Yeah, we didn't have to hear it a lot. I heard it. I heard it on the TV. I did hear it
did
a couple of
you?
times. Yeah, I heard it a couple of times, but it wasn't. What the game wasn't going their way enough to hear it. To the point where it got super annoying.
They usually do it after every touchdown and all that kind of stuff. So we don't have
Right,
to hear
right.
it too bad. So
Exactly.
but yeah,
I did have I'm gonna give a 1 minute basketball note before we drop.
basketball
So,
note.
and this spans a couple of things. One, the Lady Dogs beat Georgia Tech, so that's like the only sport we're playing Tech in this fall is women's basketball, and the Lady Dogs.
That means we run the state.
We run the state
Yet
exactly.
again.
Correct. And then on the men's side, Georgia Tech is actually 0-2 on the season. They lost, and their losses are to Georgia State and Mercer. So Georgia Tech men's basketball does not run this state whatsoever. And Tony Waller actually tweeted tonight that so apparently Georgia State and Mercer are playing tonight. And he was saying like whoever wins the game gets to take over Tech's arena that they get to play there now.
That's funny.
And then our men's basketball team is 1-0. So they had their first game got canceled. The second game ended up being scheduled to a different opponent, but they won that opener over Florida Atlantic. It's funny, when we talked about them a little bit, I was like, it's Severe Wheeler and Tamani Kamara and a bunch of transfers. I didn't mention Ty Fagan, and he looked really good, and it was actually SEC Basketball Player of the Week. So that was nice to see. So there's my basketball minute.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'll take everything that we can get when we can say that we beat Georgia Tech on this year.
Right. Okay. Mercer beat Georgia State tonight. So Mercer gets to play their home games at Georgia Tech now because
nice. The de facto
they
Atlanta
don't run the
basketball
state,
team.
but exactly they don't run the state, but they run Atlanta now apparently.
Exactly.
From Macon.
From Macon.
All righty. Well, yeah. So the first ever Bow Bowl. We don't know if there will ever be another one. We'll see.
Hopefully, we see both of these. You assume that they'll be soon to be former South Carolina head coaches. I would love to see both of them as analysts at the University of Georgia, but I don't make such decisions. Right.
Yeah, no, that would be nice. I'm all in on that as well. Should that opportunity arise. All right, man. We'll put a bow on the Bow Bowl, and we'll
How long have you
get
waiting
back
to say that?
however long we've been recording.
Put a bow on the Bow Bowl.
Bow on the Bow Bowl, and we'll get back together to talk Vandy.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.